And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I always like to start with that because I never know what time people are watching this show and where they are in the world when they're watching it, but they do watch it. So thanks for joining in for another show on Bayloric TV. Don't adjust your sets. It is black and white. I'm having some issues with color at the moment. Live. Good morning, good afternoon. Where are we? But anyway, we're here. We've started. So let's get into it. I'm going to talk about last night. I would have done a live show last night, which probably would have been better, but just completely knackered, to be honest. So I promise I'd do a show early in the afternoon. Sunday afternoon is as good as any. I think the Ashes are still going on. I should have started this at 1 o'clock, to be fair, but there you go. If you want my 2 pence piece on that very quickly, England will probably get bowled out by Australia, to be honest. It's very rarely that in an Ashes series that I've known England to hold on and score 500 runs. So I think Australia are definitely in a driving seat here. And I can't see them basically doing very well in this test match. But anyway, here we are. There's lots to talk about. Let's start talking about last night's boxing. And in particular, we'll start with the show last night in, I think it's Manchester, high stakes, and straight away with both fights with Chris Jenkins and Tyrone Nurse and Egerton versus Foote. The common denominator between both of the fighters that were in that fight, if I'm correct, is that both fighters had not been active, Jenkins and Foote. So Tyrone Nurse and Egerton, before they even got in the ring, even though they may have had superior skill set or better skill set, had already had a handy lead, because the two fighters, Chris Jenkins and Foote, both had been inactive. And I think that it's a key. Inactivity is key. I mean, you can get yourself into shape, you know, you can do all the sparring you want, but that match fitness, that you know, real-time fighting fitness and sharpness is not with you. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Chris Jenkins would have beaten Nurse, and I'm not saying that Foote would have been Egerton, but I think there would have been better fights had they had the consistency coming in. And it's the same debate, or the same thing I will say about Dillian White. If he's not fighting consistently coming into his fight against Anthony Joshua, this could be a problem, and this could rob us from a great fight. So that's my concerns already. And you saw Chris Jenkins fighting against Nurse. Nurse showed a lot of skill. I can't talk too much about both of these guys, Foote and Jenkins. A lot of people are talking about Egerton fighting Frankie Gavin. I'm just not interested. I'm really not interested in Egerton fighting Frankie Gavin. I don't see that as an exciting fight. Although I think it's a good fight for Egerton's career, I'm not really that fussed. Egerton looked good. I was impressed by him. I was impressed by Nurse. Foote, I wasn't too impressed with. He looked a bit flat-footed and a guy but you know, who relied heavily on punch power. And I didn't see anything in him that looked like he was a devastating puncher anyway. But then again, speed and timing comes by fighting regularly. And in this sport, I believe that you've got to be active. You've got to be active. For the future of Egerton, I don't know. He's 21. He's young. He's definitely got a bright future ahead. Jenkins versus Nurse. I'd like to see Jenkins get a couple more fights and get himself. I know he's got a big Welsh following. I'd like to see Jenkins get himself fight a little bit more regularly, and then maybe get that rematch with Nurse. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. In defense to Egerton and Nurse, they're not at the negotiating table. It's not their business to be bothered whether Jenkins and Foote get themselves into prime condition and get themselves regularly fighting. They've just been, they've been unfortunate in the situation, Foote in particular. So I can only, because I haven't really studied any of these guys' careers that intensely, but from the outset and what the facts are, you know, Eggington looked good, but I'd like to see Eggington fight again against a guy who's been fighting actively. So, you know, so maybe a fight against Frankie Gavin's a good one. I can't tell you after seeing Frankie Gavin fight against Kell Brook now, and I thought Frankie Gavin was going to give a lot more in it for his account. He didn't, and I think Frankie Gavin's kind of made his level now, and so Eggington probably is a good fight for him. But I'd like Eggington to fight an international match, to be honest. This thing of fighting in Britain sometimes works well, but I think maybe he could fight some guys outside. Some guys, maybe some guys in the United States. It'd be nice to give him some international flavour to him and expose him to that early. Doesn't have to be a big fight. Doesn't have to be a super fight or something like that. What I'm saying is just give him a gimme fight he can win, but international level. A lot of people talk about Nurse and his punch power, but let's remember there's a guy that fought the other night, or the other day, or on the Saturday, in fact, that had a 41 or 42 or 44 fight unbeaten record and couldn't punch, and he had 2 KOs. So I think Nurse should be encouraged by watching something like that. That punch power isn't everything, but it certainly makes you have to use your skills. You know, Nurse needs to improve in his work rate. I'd like to see Nurse maybe work with a trainer. You know, no disrespect to what he's got as a trainer at the moment. Maybe if Nurse could take himself to the next level and get maybe some more coaching, better coaching in, I think maybe it might be an idea to take him up to that next level. So, you know, he's not a big puncher, but he's got lots of skills. Maybe we can see him get more punches, you know, out, or a higher work rate. Or if not that, then Chris Aston work with him to, you know, work on his output so he puts out more punches. But I feel I was impressed with Nurse, was impressed with Egerton. He's got a good future, but needs to be managed wisely. Let's not get too excited and talk about Amar Khan and Kell Brook. Let's talk about maybe getting some international fights and getting some international exposure and building a fan base before kicking him on. But I think Egerton's a good fighter, same with Nurse. Both guys, I think, need to fight international opposition and need to build their fan base that way. Let me see what people in the room are saying. Afternoon, Ingram, mate. How you doing? I'm good. Just got a nip for some milk, mate. Be back soon. What about Crolla? Crolla came back from serious injury and won that fight, in my opinion. Yeah, I haven't even got to Crolla yet, so let's not go there. Guna says, yes, Ingram, another live show. Great stuff. Somebody else is in the room. Stuart Howe, good afternoon. 47-0 with 2 KOs indeed. Frags EU says, good afternoon, Stuart. Frags EU, good afternoon to you too. Yes, indeed. I think you are absolutely spot on there with that. Yeah, 47-0 with 2 KOs. Did well. You know, so Nurse, it's got a nice future ahead of him. Interesting. Very nice future ahead of him, I think. International, and same with Egerton as well. I think both guys need international experience. I will go back about that Crolla thing in a minute. But what I will say about that Crolla thing is, I know you say he won the fight, but think to yourself this way: if Crolla had had a couple more fights and taken that fight, he may have won that fight more convincingly. That's how I look at it. So yeah, Crolla at the end, it didn't win him a world title. You know, you know, you're saying, oh, he came back from serious injury and won the fight. I don't see him having a belt around his waist. He has no belt around his waist. As far as I was concerned, last night he got a draw. That may not have been how it looked, or it may have been bad judging, and it may have been a poor decision. The bottom line is Crolla has not got that belt around his waist. And I just think to myself, had he had a couple of warm-up fights and then taken that fight with what was his name, Dali last night, had he taken that fight after he had a couple of warm-up fights, I think Crolla would have been a little bit more active, did a little bit more work, been a little bit more confident, you know, because he'd come straight back from a serious injury, come back and did really, really, really well. And Crolla, I think, in my opinion, did really well. He really, really, really did well last night. I wasn't that impressed with the champion, to be honest, but Crolla did really well. So I didn't know if the champion was very poor or Crolla did really well. But Crolla did. All I know is Crolla did really well last night, and it just was nagging in my mind. You know, if you'd come back from serious injury, had no warm-up fight, and was straight into a world title fight, yes, you'd take it with both hands, obviously. But had he had that warm-up fight, those two little warm-up fights, you know, where he could have just gone through emotions, knocked off the cobwebs, and build the confidence and say, you know what, yeah, I'm all right. I still do. I mean, I've been sparring and I've been taking shots and sparring, but it's not the same as fighting, you know, under the lights, big occasion. So if I'd had a couple of fights, got myself in, even it was 1 or 2 fights, you know, and then took that world title fight, then I think Crolla could have won that fight and won the fight quite convincingly, because the champion wasn't that impressive. So I think Crolla could have won that fight. You know, so yeah, I think there should be a rematch. I think Crolla will do better in the rematch. I think he'd do better in the rematch. But how many immediate rematches have we seen in the past and it hasn't gone right? You know, we've seen Groves and Froch, didn't go right. We've seen Smith and Abraham, didn't go right. So Perez was poor. He was very poor. It was Perez. No, yeah, he was poor. I don't know why I put Dali there. Only Dali was his first name, I think, but he was poor. Very poor. Stuart House says it was a tight fight, Crolla. I had him 2 rounds up before the deductions, but a true warrior will come back. I agree with what you're saying, Crolla, but wow, what a Cinderella story to come back. Yeah, what a comeback indeed. I mean, he fought amazingly well. He was in and out and to the sides. So Crolla fought the best I've ever seen Crolla fight. Like I said, I don't know, before Crolla fought, I didn't think Crolla was that great, but he did really well. So there are levels in this game, and some people raised their game, and Crolla raised his game. You know, the other thing about this is that was the best that's the best Anthony Crolla I've ever seen, you know, and he had adrenaline in his back, and even the way when he was walking to the ring, he looked so confident going to the ring. He had an air about him of confidence. You know, when his name was being announced, it's like he was owning it. It was like, this is my night. This is my night. I'm going to be world champion. Yeah, he was really, really motivated and pumped and fired up, you know, and then this happens to him. Man, it's devastating. Good afternoon, Chris, by the way. That's a devastating effect. I don't know how Crolla was able to hold it together, because he was so emotionally charged and he looked like he was going to cry, but he held it together. I'm not surprised if he went back in the dressing room and really cried his eyes out. And if he doesn't cry his eyes out last night, he got up this morning crying, to put on a performance like that and still come up short, you know. And Joe Gallagher, I've had a lot of things to say about Joe Gallagher, but the 2 fighters he put on, they did very well tonight. We'll come on to Quigg's performance in a moment, but I want to spend a few moments more with Crolla and think to myself, will he get he may not get another chance like that again. He's got to fight Perez again. And the thing is, Perez will no doubt be better, as if you saw Paul Smith in his first fight against Abraham, and Smith looked really good. Now the second fight with Abraham knew what it was about, and he got his shit together, and it was a different fight. And my fear is that Crolla, can he hit that height again? Can he? You know, you can be in the right space, the right time. That last night it seemed like he was in the right space at the right time, but I don't know about whether I don't know whether Crolla can raise his game again to that level again and perform to that level again. And even if he does raise the level to that level again, and he does perform to that level again, whether he's going to be good enough to beat Perez, who raises his game. That's my concern in all of that. So there you go. Both of Abraham and Perez underestimated opponents. Chris Mason says this. So That's my concern. So Crolla fans might be getting excited saying, yeah, he won that fight. He won that fight. And Crolla has it in his mind that, yo, I won that fight too. And then you go back into the gym and you start training like a guy who's won the fight, as opposed to the guy who's lost the fight. There's that mentality there. I won that fight. So then you come in with the believing that, yeah, I did enough to win that fight. I did enough to win that fight. So you come back and fight again the second time, and that guy has now made the adjustments, made the improvements. On paper, was supposedly a better fighter than you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it was for Perez when he came to England, what his preparations like, how long he took to come over. Will they do the preparations better next time? Will they get into England earlier next time? I don't know. I don't know. But I don't want to take anything away from Crolla's performance. He did really well on that night. That doesn't mean if Eddie Hearn makes a rematch, Crolla can do the same thing again. In fact, I'd be surprised if he could do it again. And if he goes abroad, forget it. Forget it. If Crolla has that fight abroad, forget it. It'd be a great performance. Stuart Howe says, if it was me, it would make me more. Michael Redmond says, if it was me, it would make me more determined. He's obviously fine after the injury thing, so it would make me very, very determined to get justice for myself. Yeah, he did very well. He did. I don't know how many times I can say this, or how many different ways I can put it. He did exceptionally well, Anthony Crolla. Yeah, but Stuart Howe says, I'm just concerned rematch will be abroad. Was the best opportunity. Always think like a champion and train like the contender always. Stuart Howe, the NLP master practitioner, is in the house. And I'm sure I want to ask your opinion on this. How would you suggest for Crolla to change his, because he's now lost the fight, or in his mind would have lost the fight now, that he believes he gave his all and performed excellently in, and believes he should be champion, although he didn't get a decision. So a draw is as good as a loss because you haven't got the belt on you. How does he perform or prepare for the rematch against Perez? And what would you mentally be telling him to ensure that he can still raise his game to that level it was before and go beyond that? What would be, how would you motivate him? So let me leave you with that, Stuart, and see if you can come out and use some of your professional knowledge and wisdom and share it with us in the room. Michael Redmond, they want the money. That's why Eddie gets them over here. We'll be back here if it's rematch, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so too. I think so. So I think I've. Does anyone have anything to say about Chris Jenkins and I think it's Marcus Foot, I think his name is, in terms of both those fights could have been better fights had both of those guys been fighting and been more active. Okay, let's move on. The fight that I talked about. Off topic, my golf bets are going okay. Great, thanks. Okay, Quigg versus Martinez. Now coming into this fight, let's get it straight here. Martinez was a favorite coming into this fight, based on what Martinez had achieved in his career and what he'd done. Glenfoot, that's it. And Glenfoot, thank you. Marcus Foot. Where did Marcus Foot come from? Anyway. Oh, hold on, let me stop. Stuart Howe has responded. He says, the master NLP practitioner says, I would remove all emotion. I would make sure he mentally rehearses every situation and make him model excellence so that the negative emotion is gone. And I would help him to get over the emotion. And, okay, we'll wait for you to finish on that. Yeah, while I'm at it, I think I was in between the Scott Quigg and Martinez. I'll wait for. I'll continue. Quigg and Martinez. A lot of people, myself included, believe that Martinez would be dangerous. He punched with punches with venom. He gave two Carl Frampton, 2 tough fights. Hold on, here we go again. Stuart Howe continues. He says, I would make him model excellence so the negative emotion is gone. I would help him get over the emotion and prepare as if it's the first fight again, and taking the learnings of the first fight also, and it's new fight. It's a new day. So we go in as a team in the trenches together. Okay, great stuff there, Stuart. Thank you for that. Stuart Howe, the NLP Master Practitioner there. Talking about mental preparation, something that is very important in sport and day-to-day life. Yeah, so Martinez came in with the reputation that everybody knew what he could do. We saw him go abroad and do the business. We saw him rip the IBF world title off a top fighter, and then come and fight Frampton again, and Frampton could only get a points win. So coming in, and he just won a fight. So Martinez comes in now to this fight, and a lot of people are expecting, Martinez to give Scott Quigg a top fight and potentially beat him. This was no 90-10 fight. This was a real fight. It was a pick'em for some people, and me myself included. And from the first round, Scott Quigg was on the back foot. Martinez was coming into him, and you thought to yourself, oh, hello, Quigg's getting caught with some good shots here. This is not looking good for Scott Quigg. And in the second round, and you're hearing in the middle of Quigg on the back foot, you're hearing the commentators talk about Joe Gallagher, and Joe Gallagher saying how Martinez makes mistakes. And as he says that, Quigg catches Martinez coming in with a great shot, and then, as you know, Scott Quigg finishes the fight, gets all over Martinez, drops in again, and finishing him off. I think it was a great performance by Scott Quigg. Can I go and say, oh well, Martinez is over the hill? No, I can't say that. Can I turn and say, well, Martinez was struggling to make the weight? I don't know that, because to me, Martinez looked pretty fit, looked pretty ready, looked pretty hungry, and he came forward. Does Martinez need to move up in weight? Don't know. What I do know is that Scott Quigg put on a great performance. Was able to, when Martinez was coming forward, Scott Quigg was able to time him beautifully shots. And that's the best I've seen Scott Quigg fight. That's the best. And I do like Scott Quigg. Zero personality, but I think he's a very good fighter. And, he's raised his game to the next level. So you can't knock Scott Quigg. You really can't knock Scott Quigg. And I've always thought Quigg versus Frampton would be a great fight, because Frampton is a great body puncher, and I think that no, sorry, let me get this. I'm saying Quigg's a better body puncher, and I think Frampton's a better head puncher. And I think, for me, if there are any weaknesses around Carl Frampton, it is his body. Some would point to his chin, but we'll talk about that afterwards. So brilliant performance from Scott Quigg. Donaire is an interesting fight, very interesting fight for Quigg. How much has Donaire got left? Donaire is a different proposition altogether. He's a mover. He puts good combination together. I think it's a great fight. Let's go back to what people are saying in the room. Chris Mason says, I don't think we should get carried away with Perez. A simple game plan, as per last night, probably beats him regular. Okay? That's what Chris Mason says. Michael Redmond says, a Super 6 at Super Bantamweight would be brilliant if they would get past the politics and the bullshit. Some great fights. The fight for me is Quigg versus Crolla. Winner, Rigondeaux. I worship Rigondeaux. Wait. I'm sure Crolla's a lightweight. Crolla's a lightweight. I'm sure he is. And Quigg is a super bantamweight. Are you sure it's not Quigg versus Frampton you want, not Quigg versus Crolla? I hope Rigondeaux or Lomachenko happens too. That is boxing porn. I'm not fantastically over the moon about Rigondeaux versus Lomachenko. I'm more interested in Lomachenko versus Walters. That's the fight I'd like to see, because you've got a guy there in Walters that can end the fight with one shot. I like that fight more. Whereas Rigondeaux, it's skill versus skill. You've got a guy who's bigger than him, who's just as skilled as him. So I don't know. I'm not so fussed on that Rigondeaux Lomachenko fight. I'm more interested in Lomachenko fighting Walters. That's just my personal opinion. It's the best porn ever for boxing purists. I love technical fighters with skills. Yeah, I do. But I like technical fighters with skills fighting in their own weight divisions. I do. This moving up in weight thing, it's great. But, you know, if Rigondeaux beats Lomachenko, wow, it's a great, great, great performance, honestly. But I'd rather see Lomachenko fight Walters, just for the pure boxing skill versus the pure raw knockout power and strength. Frampton versus Quigg, please. I think Frampton wins too. No, I'm not so sure. I always said Quigg wins that one, Stuart, mate, for as long as I remember. Michael, it'll be an awesome fight. Quigg stronger, heavier puncher. It's Chris Mason. Quigg tickles versus Frampton. My point exactly. Quigg is lethal to the body. Yeah, I think Frampton certainly has some vulnerability around the body. I agree, mate. Hopefully, winner versus Rigondeaux in an ideal world. Stuart House says Quigg don't move his head enough. Frampton may KO Quigg. Either way, an awesome fight. Whoever wins. Quigg Frampton, mate. Yeah, sorry, not Crolla. Crolla's a lightweight. He spars Kev Hooper, indeed. Mistyped. Skills versus skills. Make Rigondeaux can bang just as hard. He can bang just as hard, not as hard as Walters. I would totally disagree with you there. Michael, it's a war with two of them. I'm not saying Quigg will win. Just think Frampton will. So hope it happens. Chris Mason says Quigg spars Crolla and gives him nightmares. LOL. Well, there you go. I think Scott Quigg put on a great performance last night. The great thing about that is people know that for once, Sky can say that was world class, and it was world class. That was a great performance last night. That's all I can say about that. The downside about that now is that Eddie Hearn's going to be back on it again. He's getting back on the bandwagon, back on Sky Sports News, making a renewed offer to Frampton, telling Frampton that was a great performance and how Scott Quigg is the best thing since sliced bread. And now that Scott Quigg would beat any single bantamweight in the world, destroy Donaire, smash up Rigondeaux. So Rigondeaux's ducking him when really Rigondeaux probably moved up to fight what's his name, Lomachenko. And Frampton's performance last night, that doesn't help. So Frampton last night, his American debut or takeoff stuttered, and I don't know, it stuttered. And I'm going to go on to the Frampton fight now. And I like Carl Frampton. I've told you all I'm a big fan of Carl Frampton, but there are a few things. I mean, I was so complacent. I didn't even look at this guy Gonzalez. I thought, you know what, it's a fight that Frampton should win easy. Frampton should knock him over easy. It's an easy fight. You know, Frampton will win this fight. It's on PBC. They're not going to give him anything that's too dangerous. It'll be easy title defense, and you know Frampton's going to look great, and he's got the American public. I can see what's going on here. Then I look on my Twitter feed. Frampton's down twice in the first. So I switched over quickly, and I'm seeing this tall, gangly guy, you know, throwing right hands and jabs, and you know, making Frampton look bad at moments, and you know, Frampton pulls it together and pulls it round. Fair play to Carl. He did the business, and you know that's what a champion does. Comes back from behind, and he was tested, and but the person that was testing him, if you go on VoxRec, you look at VoxRec, Frampton's got like a 5-star rating. This guy's got a 2.5-star rating. And then I said, well, why is that? And I started looking again. And the facts are, according to BoxRec, this guy's ranked 12th in Mexico. Okay, Mexico got some great fighters, though. But in the super bantamweight division, he's ranked 12th. He's the 12th best super bantamweight in Mexico, yeah? And he's ranked 56 in the world, according to BoxRec. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know where Gonzalez is in the world in terms of the IBF rankings. In fact, I don't know if somebody wants to go and pull up the information. Could somebody please let me know where Gonzalez was ranked in the IBF rankings? There are a few points to bring out here, and I have to first of all give a shout out to my man Hatman. He was posting on my Facebook page. He says, Ingram Jones, after Jim Watt, always talks about chins. I want to hear what he's got to say about Frampton's chin. And it's this. I don't know if you guys are going to buy this. And it's not about even buying it. I just think that it was Frampton's first fight away from home in terms of fighting in America, from what I believe, on a big PBC card with Al Heyman. And maybe he's fought away from home beforehand, fine, but not under the PBC promotion and under Al Heyman. So there's other commitments there, media commitments and what. Now, I don't know, and obviously training away from home, I don't know if the McGuigan's training schedule was disorientated or affected by the PBC organization, and there were certain demands that were made of them that they weren't aware of until they actually arrived in America. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at it from a kind of rational standpoint, and whether the various media demands became a little bit too much for Frampton, and it got into his training schedule. I don't know about that. What I do know, and exactly what Duke McKenzie was saying, Frampton's not a featherweight. I'm sorry. Frampton is not a featherweight. Would you want to see Frampton versus Walters? If this guy, Gonzalez, is dropping Frampton, yeah, then can you imagine what Walters would do to him? I just, no. I think Frampton's a good super bantam, and his strength is where he, as a super bantam, I don't think he can impose that same strength as a featherweight. So my concern with Frampton last night was just that, is Frampton one of these fighters that travel well? Is he one? McGuigan fought in America, let's remember, and against Steve Cruz, but he got set up as well, fighting in a car park by Don King, and the heat out there was unbelievable, and I believe it was the heat that beat Barry McGuigan that night. As Prince Nazim Hamid once said, when he was being compared when McGuigan was being compared to Prince Nazim Hamid, and somebody said, what would you do? What would Barry McGuigan have done with you? Prince Nazim Hamid commented, and he said, in terms of talking about McGuigan, he said, if the heat beat McGuigan, imagine what my two fists could do to him. Let me just turn the light 1 second. There we go. He said, let there be light, and indeed there was light. So the question marks about Frampton, whether Frampton is good in terms of traveling away from home. Can he fight away from home in America? He talked about the canvas and not being able to get grip on the canvas. He talked about not making the weight. I don't know. Not the fact that Gonzalez is not a good fighter. Gonzalez fought really well, to be honest. He fought very well indeed. So for me, it just raised a few questions. Frampton's looked solid before this fight. He looked pretty solid. In fact, looked very solid before the fight. So before he fought Gonzalez. So for me, was it an off night? Did he take this guy lightly? Or is Frampton not as good as people make him out to be? I don't know. I don't know. Um, Preparations obviously wasn't as good as they should be, but the thing is, he got through the fight. And the other thing is, has Frampton's style susceptible to tall fighters? He looked uncomfortable for the first 6 rounds, and Gonzalez Jr. isn't known, for what I know, as a world beater. So, if Hatman, you want to hear my comments about Frampton's chin, look pretty decent to me, because there are some well-known fighters that if they got hit on the chin like that, might not have got out the first round. So Frampton showed he had a decent chin, being able to take the shot. He took one. The first one he got hit with, the jab. He's like, oh, he smiled. He looked kind of embarrassed. But that second one, I went to look at. Somebody said to me, "Oh yeah, I think it's British boxing or British boxers or something like that, or UK British boxing." Said to me, "Oh, it was only a flash knockdown, mate." So the jab was a flash knockdown, but the second right hand, oh dear me, he was put down hard. So for him to be able to get up from that and to continue to take good shots, Frampton's got a good chin, no doubt about it. Frampton's got a good chin. You then ask yourself the question, because people will ask that question, well, if Scott Quigg was in there, what would have happened? Because Martinez got hit with a heck of a shot by Scott Quigg, and Scott Quigg didn't let him out of didn't let him off the hook. So the question is, if Scott Quigg had hit Frampton on the chin like that, what would happen? The other thing about Frampton I was very concerned about was when anytime, I know Gonzalez was punching was hitting below the belt as a tall guy, dipping low and throwing shots, a technical thing there. And I think Dali did, Perez did the same thing as well. He borderline shots and going below the belt. Some people said that Crolla was milking him for all he could. And Frampton doesn't like body shots. That is apparent. He doesn't like. But to say somebody doesn't like body shots, I don't know anybody likes body. In fact, I don't like anybody who likes body shots. I know Nigel Benn says he loves a tear up, but if you ask him, do you like body shots, mate? Nobody likes body shots. But there's some guys that have really, there's especially in boxing, say if you've got a good chin, go to the body. And Frampton seems to have a good chin, but if there's any vulnerability around Frampton, not the chin, is the body. And I think weight making, when you pull off too much weight too quickly, that saps you of that natural strength you normally have. And so therefore his ability to take a shot was compromised. So nothing wrong with Frampton's chin. Preparations wasn't great for whatever reason. And they better get it together. They better get together, because there's going to be tougher challenges ahead. If you're talking about Rigondeaux, I'm talking about Santa Cruz, and talking about Donaire. I mean, I know Donaire is slightly faded, but if you talk about them kind of guys, then you got to get your shit together. And the one other thing I want to ask boxing fans: do you think that boxers should mention that they are struggling to make weight before they get in the ring or after a fight? Because I could always make the excuse afterwards, oh well, I was struggling to make weight, and that the McGuigans may say, look, you know what, if this fight don't go according to plan and Scott Quigg's fighting on the same night, just say weight making. And I don't know, I didn't hear much of Frampton before the fight. I didn't hear if he said he was in the best shape of his life, because if he's caught on camera saying he was in the best shape of his life and then turn around after and say he had problems making weight, then doesn't sound good, does it? So I think in terms of the weight making, I don't know what these facilities were like in America. I don't know why they didn't make weight, but I don't know if it's an excuse. But I think they can buy that excuse for this fight. They can't buy that excuse in the future. They better make that weight. They better make super bantamweight, because they'll have more than weight issues if they go to the better featherweight. They'll have power punchers hitting them on the chin regularly, and taller guys out jabbing them in a higher weight division. One thing I did like about Frampton, he was able to distance and time, and I like the way he was able to use his, as a guy with shorter arms, he was able to get on Gonzalez and use the jab. I love the way Frampton was able to use the jab and sometimes out jab Gonzalez. That was very nice to see from the second half of the fight, and slip in and slip out and throw shots. That was very impressive. I like that. Let's go back to what people are saying in the room. Chris Mason says, Carl looked very vulnerable against him. Was feeling it every time he got caught. Yes, that's true. Chris Mason says, did you notice anyone else notice the other fellows' raps when they cut them off at the end of the night? No, I didn't. Michael Redmond says, Gary Hyde slagging Team Frampton off, saying he went and fought this dude and he could have got a career high Perez versus Quigg, calling it unthinkable. And Michael Redmond says, plaster of Paris. Mr. Egg God One, whoever you are and whatever you do, we can all have a bad day. Frampton had exactly that. That's what I'm trying to say. But the question is, will he have more bad days in America than good? Some people travel well. Some people fight well away from home, and some people just, no matter what, look at Clinton Woods was a perfect example. He fought brilliantly at home. Stick him over in America and he never fought well. And he was a world-class fighter, I thought, in my opinion. Chris Mason, Walters would destroy him. Carl's not even a big super bantamweight. That's my point. That's my point. Walters would eat him up. You don't want to even see that fight, So against a better fighter, it would have been an even worse day, pal. Chris Mason says, paper thin wraps, LOL. Oh, okay. Chris Mason, straight lines, no head movement, very wide distance, gloves low, caught with wide hooks. Yep. I think Frampton, as he moves up in class and he starts moving up against better fighters, again, we'll find out how good Shane McGuigan is as a trainer as he moves up, but so far so good. Michael Redmond says, he seemed in good shape, Frampton. Seen some pictures of him working hard, but that may have been a charade. Michael Redmond says, I give him credit for the way he handled going down early. Cotto used to go down early and then do a solid comeback. Remind me of Cotto. Yeah, I remember Cotto used to do that. De La Hoya used to do that as well in the lower weight divisions. I remember if you look at him when he was, I think, super featherweight, he was getting dropped all the time. But he got back up and won. And if you see when he got right up to welterweight, he had a really good chin. So, welterweight, light middleweight, and even up at middleweight. When he got dropped and knocked out, it was for a body shot. So I think Frampton doesn't have those luxuries because he's a 5'4" or 5'3", 5'4". He's not going very far. He's not going very far. He better keep his weight down. He better find a way to keep his weight down. Yemi, Babatunde. Yemi, great to see you in the room. Can either Quigg or Frampton have a chance against Lomachenko or Rigondeaux? Yeah, they can both have a chance. They can both have a chance. Oh, but are you asking if they can beat Rigondeaux? I'd rather see Quigg fight Rigondeaux because he's got more punch power than Frampton. But nah, sorry, no chance. I don't see them, neither of those guys beating Rigondeaux or Lomachenko, because Lomachenko's the weight above. So no chance. If anyone's going to move up in weight, it's going to be Scott Quigg. Scott Quigg stands a better chance of moving up in weight to featherweight. He's got a better career at featherweight than Frampton has. He looks a bigger guy, naturally bigger. Stuart House has 3 big excuses in boxing: weight, wasn't mentally right, injured, and that's what my boxers at the time never say this at the time. We say the better man won. Michael Redmond says no chance, Yemi. Michael Redmond says none. And Zeta Creation starts, shit, when did this start? It just did. Rigondeaux Champions League, the rest are League 2. Zeta Creations, Kika got 6 losses. Defo. Frampton had weight problems. He had weight loss problems. Frampton said he had problems getting the weight off. Now he's in America, and he had problems getting the weight off. I think he may have had commitment issues with you know. Also, the canvas was a bit dodgy. He couldn't plant his feet, soft canvas. Yeah, but hold on. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong about this year, but I'm sure I've seen fighters before the fight. They actually fight. They go in the ring and they test the ring itself. I've seen many fighters the night before go in the ring and they test the canvas out, you know, to feel and see what they're going to do. I remember David Haye did it, obviously, before he fought Derek Chisora, where in the end he ended up wearing trainers. Do you remember the fight against Chisora? He was wearing trainers and not his boxing boots. So David Haye must have tested the canvas. There must have been somehow, Frampton must have known what the canvas was like. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't buy the canvas thing. I really don't. And Frampton's fought around the world. He was an international boxer, so I'm sure that's not the first night Frampton's boxed on a canvas like that before. I just think them punches were pretty hard. That's what I think. So you can, you know, yeah, Quigg fights Frampton's leftovers. Rigondeaux, I can't spell it, is brilliant. What a brilliant fighter. It's what Stuart House is. Michael Redmond says, I have a chance to win the Euro Millions, but it's about 67 million to 1. Same chance as anyone beating Rigondeaux. Bottom line. Chris Mason there says, LOL. Mr. God One says, LOL. One day, Matt Sean are going to have a very bad night. He says, Michael Redmond says, he knew what the camp was like. All right. Yeah, he knew from first round. Frampton knew first round what the canvas was like. You know, I'm sure Scott Quigg will look at Frampton getting knocked down, and I'm sure it won't take long before there's somebody puts a video together of Frampton getting knocked down and Quigg saying something about it. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. But yeah, overall, it's a fight that's got to happen. More so than Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. Kell Brook has fought one legitimately good fighter, and probably 2 Frankie Gavin. When you look at Amir Khan's fought a multitude of fighters, and you know, I just think that Khan still is in the driving seat. So yeah. Other fights to talk about, by the way. Chris, what a nightmare, Areola. He used to be called the Nightmare. You remember Chris Areola? Remember that dude that everyone was saying was going to be next heavyweight champion? Well, I wasn't saying it. Next heavyweight champion of the world. Areola's got eating problems, and you know he used to me damn tacos, and now in his career, you know, he fights the same way in every single fight. He doesn't make any adjustments, and he makes the fight the same way in every fight. I'm sorry. And Areola at top level is finished. Limited fighter. Areola would be a good opponent for Hughie Fury, a good opponent for AJ, a good opponent for Dillian White. Those are the sort of guys. That's a sort of opponent. Chris Areola's opponent now, he's not elite. And you know, if If the Stavern fights didn't show you, you know, this fight last night against this guy, he was getting caught with right hands all night long. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of Chris Arreola. So that's that. And there's no way that fight was a draw last night. I think they're just trying to save him. And Deontay Wilder versus Chris Arreola. Arreola comes in straight lines, and yeah, he could catch Wilder, but the way he comes in straight lines and he's shot now, I can see Wilder doing a number on him. I really can. He looks like Wilder material. And what I mean by that is he looks like a guy that Wilder's going to seriously get dealt with. Oh my God. Zeta Creation says Scott left over Quigg. Oh, come on, man. That's kind of harsh there, man. Come on, you can't say that, Zeta Creation. I mean, you know, you can say that, but you know, you say that after the fact. Before the fact, it was like Scott Quigg should take the fight. He's fought his first real top quality opponent. You know, so I don't know. I won't go Scott left over Quigg. It's a bit harsh though. Chris still chili sauce on his kebab areola. That's true. That's true. I can imagine if Areola was in England, he'd probably be, if he was in England or in Ireland, he'd be my kebab shop for sure. Chris Blowfish Areola. Agreed, Michael. Not committed to, he eats what he wants to eat. Yeah, he might. You know what fight I'd like to see? Chris Areola versus Riddick Bowe. You know, see who can eat the most out of Kentucky Fried Chicken first, and then put me into fight. Zeta Creations. I want Joshua to get iced. He keeps fighting nobodies. So do they all. Wilder beats him in 3 rounds. Easy, Stuart Howe. Zeta Creations, and he will get iced. Stuart Howe beats AJ will be world champion. You can take that to the bank, says Mr. E. Good. I'm going to call you just Mr. God One. That's it. Micro says Zeta is a hater. Simple. Bruce Wade, Areola himself said he doesn't deserve the Wilder fight. So who do you think they will get for Wilder instead? Well, I'm surprised that Lucas Brown is not next in line. But I thought, honestly, Let's Go Champ was next in line. I really did. Let's Go Champ, Shannon Briggs. You know, and while I'm at it, and when I'm talking about, and 2 guys I really had no interest in watching, and they both delivered crap. Areola and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Not interested in him, not interested in Areola. If you can't be dedicated to get yourself in the gym and get yourself in shape, and then, you know, I know a lot of people slag Tyson Fury off about, oh, he gets himself out of shape, but at least when he gets in the ring, he puts some decent performances. I mean, you look at, I mean, but if Tyson doesn't watch himself, you know, you keep losing weight all the time and putting weight on, losing weight, eventually catches up with you. But, you know, if he fights consistently, Tyson, he'll be all right. But Areola, man, he's not even getting better. He's not even improving. So, he says, Zeet says, well, this will be interesting. A stiff of Breeze ends Wilder. Joshua Wilder, the same. You're a funny guy, Mike, says Mr. Godwin. But now, I'm not Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I don't care. I'm not interested in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So I'm not even going to even talk about him. But he's finished anyway. My interest in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. ran thin with him when he fought Martinez. Talked all that crap about Martinez, and then caught smoking dope, and then only performed in the 12th round against Martinez. It was a fight he could have won, but that was it. And after that, just had no interest in him. And him getting knocked out by Fanfara was fantastic, brilliant. You know, that was fantastic. Should happen more often. Please, no Ingram, no Sharon Briggs. LOL. He annoys me. He annoys me. Haha. Let's go, champ. But I can see Wilder and Briggs fighting. Absolutely. Wilder and Briggs, Areola and Wilder, they're the sort of fights. Yeah, you know. But I think I spoke to Peter Fury yesterday. If you haven't heard the interview, check it out. And he said that it proves nothing knocking over nobodies. It proves nothing knocking over guys that you're meant to knock over and old men. It proves nothing. You need to fight guys who are going to hit you back. And that's what he says Price's career was. Now, to those people the other night in the chat room that said to me, and there were quite a few know-it-alls in the chat room that said to me how Price would never join Team Fury and Team Fury would never have David Price. Now, let me let you into something if you haven't listened to the video already, the interview already. Peter Fury admitted that he offered David Price the opportunity to train with him, but David Price declined that opportunity to train with him for the Tony Thompson rematch. Instead, he chose Lennox Lewis. So you can make what you think of that. Chris Mason says Chavez Jr. is like an oxygen thief, a real waste of senior semen. Oh my God. Michael Redman says Bet Senior is so proud. Bruce Wayne says Briggs is not ranked in the top 15 though. Oh, by the way, Michael Redman, I know you say that rankings are bullshit. Then in that case, then Joshua's ranking at number 2 in the world by the WBC is bullshit. And also the fact that what's his other guy's name? Oh, the guy that they keep talking about, the golden boy of British boxing, who I don't see. Oh, is it Callum Smith? He's ranked number 2 as well in the world. Peter talked a lot of sense in that interview, mate. He does. He always does. Price wouldn't get through a camp with Peter. He would quit. Well, I think that, you know, that would be the acid test for David Price. I really do think David Price has a career in boxing, but he's got to get his shit together. He's got to get his shit together. He needs to get rid of his trainer. I think Sauerland are good. Peter made a lot of sense because Sauerland had both Tepper and Price. And whoever lost that fight, it doesn't matter who lost the fight or who won the fight. One of those guys would have been European champion, and it's an in-house thing, so nobody knows. City Creation says Price should retire. I don't subscribe to that. I think he needs. I think we've seen David Price from the amateur going to the pro ranks with an amateur coach, doing the same things he did as an amateur as a pro, and has discovered that as a pro you can't get away with that. So he's fought as an amateur, right? If you look at Lennox Lewis's career when he turned from amateur to pro, he said up to the McCall fight, he was basically relying on his amateur style, and it took him so far. Then he got knocked up on a call, and then he got a professional trainer in. The difference with David Price is he didn't get a professional trainer in. He stuck with his amateur trainer, this Franny Smith, and you know, look, it's not slagging off Franny Smith, but if somebody's not up to the task, it's just not up to it. You need to get a professional trainer in. And Tommy Brooks was as close to a professional trainer as you got, but he threw him to one side. Lennox Lewis is not a professional trainer. He's a professional world champion. He was not a professional trainer. And you certainly don't take a punt on, you know, you're 33 years old now. Taking a punt on Chris Bird is not it, or taking a punt on some unproven trainer is not it. He needs to get himself an established trainer. Nazim Richardson, I think, is perfect for David Price. I'd love to see David Price work with Nazim Richardson, because Nazim Richardson, you see what he's done with Steve Cunningham. Steve Cunningham moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, and yeah, people say, oh well, Cunningham's got skills and all the rest of it. Yes, he was a former world champion. Yes, agreed. I understand, they're not the same fighter. But what I'm saying is, Richardson has made Cunningham fight in such a way now that he's establishing himself as one of the better heavyweights in the division. You know, and Cunningham's fought some of the better heavyweights in the division anyway. I mean, Mansour, Spilker. You know, I think he could. I think Nazim Richardson could do well. He could do really well with David Price, and he needs that sort of trainer around him. Chris Mason says, I spent the day with Barry Hearn yesterday. We discussed boxing organizations, LOL. Oh, I wish I could. I met Barry Hearn once, years and years and years ago. And I was talking to him about boxing, having a boxing career. And I remember talking to him. It's funny, really. He was on his way off to Romford, and I was on my way. I saw him at Liverpool Street. He was walking one way, I was walking the other. But I wasn't into boxing as much as I am now, of course. But interesting, nice guy. Stuart Howe, I offered Price my services. Let's hope he sees sense. Mr. Cutsy says Price has definitely lost his old rabbit in the headlights like Harrison. Yeah. Price needs to flux off. Plumbing joke. LOL. Haha. I bet he slated them, Chris. Stiff idiot shithouse. LOL. Well, what Tyson Fury said is true, and I know Michael Redmond. Is it Michael Redmond? One of you said that Anthony Joshua is going to be the next heavyweight champion of the world. Well, if you remember rightly, people were saying the same things about David Price, and we all saw what happened there. Anthony Joshua hasn't been hit back in the chin yet. Anthony Joshua's not been tested yet, and it's very, very, as Peter Fury said, he has no time for fans who have doesn't matter what color of the flag they've got or the scarf they've got. He's got no time for people that carry colorful flags or colorful scarves. He says he has no time for them. He blocked quite a few casuals. It was so funny the way he said that. It was absolutely hilarious. I mean, if you go back and listen to the interview again, he called Kelly Maloney a bisexual twit. They really, the Fury camp really don't like Kelly Maloney or Frank Maloney. Stuart Howe mentally never recovered from original Thompson fight. If you rewind to then, everybody was saying he had a great career. Indeed. Fury called Joshua Muscle Brown divvy. LOL. I'm saying it here. That until our friend Carlton Palmer, I regret to inform you that Carlton Palmer is no longer with us. Unfortunately, my button sort of slipped over the block user button, and he no longer is with us. Carlton Palmer made a lot of useful contributions, but no longer is part of the show. Anyway, moving on. Michael Redmond said football hooligans, etc. Fury also said that Joshua beat him up in sparring. Yeah, he did. But how many years ago was that? That was a long time ago. I'm not even sure Peter Fury was training with him. And if you also remember in the interview, he said that he told Tyson to throw the British Championship, the British title in the river, and to get his. He said he needed a year to get himself together. So Chris Mason said, I honestly say, I never at any stage thought Price had a career beyond British level. Too upright, too stiff, and known to have dodgy whiskers. Well, I know you say that. I know you say that, but Joshua got dropped in the amateurs, and he got stopped in the amateurs, and that's when somebody put pressure on him. Same with Wilder, he got dropped in the amateurs and got stopped in the amateurs. So Joshua never looked great when guys started backing him up. So I think we need to look at things like that. Michael Redmond said Price was stiff and robotic. Yeah, Tyson said Price was stiff and robotic. I pissed myself then. Yeah, that's where Peter Fury said it. He said it's stiff and robotic. Reminded me of Tyson when Peter said that about time, Ingram. Zeta Creation said, need to be careful what you say about Kelly Maloney. He or she is protected by sinister forces. whole story about that. Oh, at Carlton Palmer. Yeah, it was about time Palmer went. He did have to go. Be right back to make a cup of tea. Green tea too. 6 packs for Ria. I tell you, listen, Stuart, I have tried this this liver, I think it's a liver cleanse and a skin cleanser. They're both natural. It's called by, I think it's done by Dr. Stewart. They're really good in terms of tea, random stuff. Anyway, Joshua doesn't like pressure. That's my point. Wilder was at cruiserweight too, big gloves and no headgear. Watch Gillian White give Joshua ruddy good hiding years ago. That's my point. You know, so before you can start calling the person heavyweight champion of the world and put your bank and put your life on it, at least see what the man can do. You know, it was years ago. Yeah, but so was years ago that Stavern put a beating on Price. It was years ago that Price was stopped in the amateurs. It was years ago, you know, it was years ago that Joshua got stopped in the amateurs. Still got stopped. Chin don't change, I don't think. So yeah. So check out that interview. It's an interesting interview with Peter Fury. But to put it on AJ, you have to take risks. Not really. Not really, because he comes forward. He comes forward, and AJ comes forward. And at the moment, he's got momentum coming forward, Chris, without any concern of anything coming back. This is what happened with Price. He was so used to coming forward. The first time he started getting hit back, he didn't know what to do. Look at the fight he had against Skelton. That was the first time somebody got on his chest and started throwing punches at him. He looked very uncomfortable. And the fight after that was when he fought Tony Thompson. So I think the first time somebody gets through with a real punch with Joshua, you're going to know what he's about. So I don't think anyone has to take risks. Joshua brings the fight to opponents. So when you're bringing the fight to opponents, you open yourself up to getting caught with punches. So I don't think you have to take big risks. You know, you have to take more risks with a guy as a counter puncher than you do with a guy who is a come forward fighter. Yeah, but you're going to get banged hard, mate. That's the risk. Yeah, but this is the point. I mean, Joshua doesn't. Don't tell me Joshua hits any harder than Mike Tyson or George Foreman. And all those guys got their chin tested. And all those guys had to go the distance. So your punch can only do so well at a certain level, as Peter Fury said. And as I've said, when you fight guys who can take your shot and are throwing punches back as well, once you fight guys who can take your punch, not only take your punch, but are prepared to give punches back, that's a different situation because your output either goes up or it goes down. If you look at Joe Kawasaki, his punch output never changed, regardless of whether he's fighting at British level or world level. His punch output never changed. Price doesn't dare engage now since the Thompson fights. He didn't pull the trigger due to fear. Yeah, well, he needs a sports psychologist working with him day in, day out, and he also needs, in my opinion, a world-class trainer in his corner. I really do. Salon did a good job. They've kept him. They've got a plan for him. So, but he needs to get rid of his trainer. He really does, and he needs to start making some sacrifices in his life. I mean, Price went back to the same crap. What's training in Liverpool? I think he was. I don't know. Joshua needs to fight someone in the top 10. Only one decent heavyweight in world boxing, and he's about to retire. I don't know about that. I think Brighton Jennings is a decent heavyweight. I think Berlin Stavern, fit and healthy, is a decent heavyweight. And there's some good guys coming up that are around. If AJ connects, he does look heavy-handed from what he faced. It may get less so at high level, but he's heavy-handed and it will get better with time. I don't know about that. I disagree. I think let's see what AJ does after 5 or 6 rounds. You don't know what AJ does after 5 or 6 rounds. Is he going to start puffing? Is he gonna have the stamina to do 12 rounds? And will our hands start to drop? When the hands start to drop, and a guy starts tagging him, what happens? What does AJ do when he got pushed onto the back foot? What does AJ do when he gets hit hard on the chin? What does AJ do when he's backed up against the ropes? You don't know that. And if you're going to be heavyweight champion of the world, we need to know at least you can do those things, you know. And AJ doesn't need to hit anywhere as hard as Foreman or Mike. I think the heavyweight scene is so poor, anyone half decent can rule. Okay, let me give you this, Chris. Do you think you're going to have more belt holders in the heavyweight division once Klitschko retires? Or do you think that's assuming that Klitschko beats Fury, that is. Do you think we're going to have more belt holders and you'll have a situation where you have one premier heavyweight, which was Mike Tyson, cleaning up? Or do you think you'll have a range of champions and belt holders? AJ's fitness is unreal. Yeah. Against who? Chris, I don't subscribe to. The only time you can find if somebody's fitness is unreal is when they're told to go the distance. Joe Kazaki's fitness is unreal. Carl Froch's fitness is unreal. Manny Pacquiao's fitness is unreal. Floyd Mayweather's fitness is unreal. But these guys have been tested and have gone through the tests. That's how you know somebody's fitness is unreal. AJ's fitness is not unreal because he's not done 12 rounds. So there's nothing to suggest he can do the 12 rounds. There's nothing to suggest he can do the 12 rounds yet because he hasn't done it. He hasn't fought anybody good enough yet to go 12 rounds. So, you know, and even the Dillian White fight, I'm not fussed on it. I really am not. I'm not hyped on it all. Dillian needs to fight a few fights. And I even think Peter Fury agreed with me. Dillian needs to fight a few fights. He needs to have a few fights before he fights Joshua. You know, it's the same thing we talked about earlier on about Egerton and Glenn Foote and Chris Jenkins and Tyrone Nurse. I think that you need to get fights to get yourself ready to fight. Yet, because it will be dominated by money, a range of champions will squabble with promoters for years. Well, you know, interesting. It's not AJ's fault he's wiping people out so quickly. He's done everything asked of him. Being English, we're all skeptical. Gary Cornish is terrible. He is. Well, I can't say he's terrible. What I do know about Gary Cornish is that he has 4 sparring partners who would take every round for 12 rounds. Yeah. What's the quality of sparring partners like? I'm sure that Price had the same thing as well and push him hard. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess everyone's open to. You've heard me say it here. I have reasons to be skeptical. You know, 2 guys that I think I like a lot are Jennings and Stavern. Both guys have been in and have fought. I mean, Stavern, I have to say that again, he didn't look anywhere near the same fighter that I saw against Areola, and I definitely think he was dehydrated. As for Brian Jennings, the fact that he's moved over to John David Jackson is amazing news from what I hear. It's amazing news that if he is training with John David Jackson is one of the best trainers in the world without a shadow of doubt, puts on a great game plan. Also the trainer of Sergey Kovalev. So he knows his shit. And you know, Jennings shows he's got a good chin, great fitness, good boxing brain. And he'll only get better under John David Jackson. So I'm excited about that. I think Jennings is one of the genuine heavyweights, the quality heavyweights. And isn't it funny how Dillian White's trainer gets hit by a car? How convenient for AJ. It's interesting, isn't it? White for AJ, and AJ was not that good. I'm not fussed on AJ win 4-round KO. How far will AJ go? Hard to tell. He hasn't been tested yet, but needs to fight for British and then step him up. But yeah. According to a sparring partner, somebody who spars regularly with Gary Cornish, he's got no chin. He's got no chin. So we'll see. We'll see. If he has no chin, then he's going to make AJ look like a destructive force, and he doesn't look like a man. He doesn't look a very aggressive fighter. He looks like a guy that like tries to make things. He doesn't look like a man or try and make things happen. I don't see Cornish being a guy. I don't see Cornish being the guy to give AJ any problems whatsoever. I can see AJ walking straight through Cornish. I can see him walking to Cornish, Cornish backing into the corner, AJ landing the jab, and then landing that big right hand and steamrolling into Cornish and stopping him in a couple of rounds, 3-4 rounds. That's how I see it, just being honest. I don't see Gary Cornish putting any sort of. He doesn't come across as a guy that's going to come and have it with you. Cornish doesn't come across as a fighter that's going to go toe to toe with you. Yeah, I just hope. Yeah, I hope Cornish gets paid as well. I just see images of Cornish being trapped in a corner and getting battered. That's what I see. That's sad, but that's what I see it. But I could be wrong though. Kelly will sort out a good purse. Zeta Creations, I'm very interested. I'd love to know who you are. I'd love to know who you are. And I don't expect you to tell me who you are. But I'd love to look into this part about, we talked about Kelly Maloney being protected. I really would like to know more about that. Put my house on that fight not going into the third, yeah. He showed that when he can be put down by solid power and didn't recover. AJ versus White amateurs. That's true. Don't even forget that fight. Go look at the fight. He got stopped. I think it was the World Championships, and he got stopped there. He kind of reminded me of the way Bruno used to get stopped, but we'll see. And what's AJ's recovery instincts like? What's he like? You know, when he gets hit with a good punch, how does he respond? Does he tie up? Can he tie up well? Does he know how to hold? Yeah, AJ versus Cornish won't go 3 rounds. I would love to see AJ versus Vac. That would have been a good fight. I still think it would have been a good fight because, you know, you had a guy in Vac that takes a great shot and a guy that can punch. Guy's never been knocked out. That would have been a good fight. Alas, we don't get that. We don't get that. Oh, he's slow and he's limited. Well, if he's slow and limited, why not take the fight? That's a good fighter. That's a good fighter. Unless anybody else has got anything else to say, I think that's about it for the show. Check out the Peter Fury interview. Very revealing. And Peter Fury alludes a lot to the current heavyweight division. Talks a lot about fights with records, padded records. Doesn't call any names out. We just read between the lines. He's talking about a few heavyweights that are around us today. I will still subscribe to the fact that you need to be tested before you can be crowned or even given a mantle of being world heavyweight champion or world champion, period. You need to be tested. You need to be gut tested. Unfortunately, I'm not watching the Open, but I literally, where I live, if I look into my garden, from where I am, I look into my garden, I've got a golf club right next door to my house. So that's quite nice. Thank you, Stuart. I want to go back to Zeta because he's got a great point. He was talking about Kelly Maloney and Sinister Forces. Chris Mason doesn't like me. No, I don't know about that. Chris is cool. He's a cool dude. Chris, my apologies. We didn't get that interview done. And as soon as you're available, I'd love to be able to get an interview with you. I think we could mix it up and have a long chat about boxing. Are you a spy from Matchroom, Chris? Oh, shots fired. Didn't think about that. I work for them. Oh, he does, doesn't he? That's quite true. He does work for them, doesn't he? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Chris. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going to report already about me. Oh dear me. I can still see. Oh, I didn't talk about Martin Murray, did I? How can I not talk about Martin Murray? Um, Martin Murray. I didn't talk about him. Sorry, Martin. Uh, Middleweight did well. Super middleweight fought against that light heavyweight guy. Yeah, he was bigger, but there's yeah, it is happening, mate. But I'm just trying to work around a few other matters at the moment. That's why I haven't got that Skype thing happening yet. So I'm gonna get it all together. But give me a moment. I'm gonna come back to you on that Skype thing. Yeah, the Martin Murray thing. Yeah, he fought against that light heavyweight, proved he was strong. That stoppage, what was all that about? I thought that stoppage was shocking, an absolutely shocking stoppage. And let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. If that was a British fighter that got stopped in America or got stopped in Europe, everyone would be up in arms, completely up in arms. Yeah, exactly. I'll pull you up about that. So I know we can be biased in England, in the UK, that if our fighters get stopped like that, it's not on. But Martin Murray was just going to make the breakthrough, and yeah, he if you look on BoxRec, if you go to BoxRec now, you're going to see Martin Murray stopped a guy that was a light heavyweight, and you say, oh, that's a good performance. Martin Murray stopped a light heavyweight, right? Really? Then you look at the stoppage, it's like that guy, he took a few shots, but that was it. So Martin Murray, I'd like to see what he does against George Groves. That's the fight I'd like to see. Groves versus Murray. I think that's a great fight. Groves has to do the business against Badu Jack, but I think Groves versus Murray is a better fight than Murray versus DeGale. I think that's a great fight. Yeah, but Martin Murray fighting against that light heavyweight guy, that guy was just a walking punch bag, to be honest. Very weird stoppage, but I would rather a fight stop earlier than way too late. Well, the guy wasn't in any serious trouble. Let's be honest. He wasn't in any serious trouble. He wasn't on the verge of being knocked out. He wasn't like he wasn't in as much trouble as Carl Frampton was. In that case, Carl Frampton should have got stopped in the first round after Wade Frampton got dropped in the first round. Frampton was in more trouble than that guy that Martin Murray fought last night. So in that case, Frampton should not be world champion. He should have got stopped in the first round. If the referee is based on the same premises, that's sort of biased referee. I don't know. I'm wondering if referees in the UK should not referee in the UK, or not on big cards like the matchroom cards, that they should have foreign referees in and not English referees, so it doesn't look dubious. Isn't Howard Foster the referee there? Oh dear. Notice that. Is Howard Foster a star referee, or is he just a referee? And Ian John Lewis. Who's Ian John Lewis? Everybody up in arms. Oh, it's like Ian John Lewis. But that stoppage was Martin Murray. Was a good stoppage. It was not a good stoppage. It was a terrible stoppage. It was an awful stoppage. It was a biased stoppage. It was a matchroom stoppage. That's that really. Yeah. I think that's it, guys. Might as well wrap the show up. Zeta Creations, have you got any more information with me about? Have you got any more information with me about that Kelly Maloney thing? If not, I will be checking it out myself and looking into it. No. You guys, Very true, Ingram. Damn, damn you, haha, you're too good. It's interesting. It should have got stopped last night. Handman fighters ain't getting stopped on a showcase. No, they're not. Not by the referee. No, they're not. They're not. So, yeah. I just kind of wonder if this Frampton going over to sign with Al Heyman's going to end. Thank you, please do. I just wonder if the Al Heyman, Carl Frampton relationship's going to end well. I'm not how this relationship's going to work out. And also, do you think that David Price go over to Al Heyman, but he's with Sauerlands at the moment. But if they promote him, I don't know. But I do think that Price needs a damn different trainer. That's a fact. Peace out, everyone. Have a good, chilled Sunday. Hang out, recovery day. Thanks, Ingram, mate. Thank you. Just before I finish, I'd like to give thanks to Al Heyman for making it possible to do this show today. I don't know why I said that. I don't think I'll ever have to thank Al Heyman for anything, but apart from PVC and free boxing that's available. Yeah, that's it. For you boxing geeks out there, I'll be having a surprise guest on my show soon. It's a biggie. That's as much as I'll say about that. Take care and we'll speak soon.